Okay?
Yeah, that would be a crazy thing to do.
Yes. People do it, but it,
They have to have pretty big bulldozers for those sidearm cranes.
right, right. Okay, is there anything else? Any more questions?
So let me tell you quickly what the board's going to do next. They're going to look at what's called SEQR, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Act. They have to look at the environmental impacts of their actions. They're looking at the impact, the SEQR, the environmental impacts of adopting the road use agreement. Not of the project, not of the road use, but literally the only thing that they have the authority right now to look at is, do they want to sign this agreement or not? Does it help the town or not? Does it help mitigate the damages that they know where the trucks are going to be, that they get money ahead of time, that they get video of the roads beforehand, that they get video of the road after? They have the ability to come in and correct or have them correct the roads before they're used. So that's what they're going to do right now. The clerk has a copy of this, so you guys can foil it if you want later, but basically it looks like this. And we're going to go through some questions in part 2, which is on page 1 of 2 in the back, gentlemen. And I'm going to read the questions. And remember, you're questioning, it's this. Okay? Right there. And what you're looking at is the environmental impact of the road use agreement, okay? So will the proposed action, this is question 1, create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning? So basically, is somebody using your roads and you contracting with them contrary to what you do in the town? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? As we discussed, they're going to use the roads anyway. You're limiting them to where they're going to go on the map, on the chart, and you're getting money so that you can fix it and repair the roads if they don't, and the ability to sue them, have the bond, and have insurance.
And as we talked before, on all these answers, I don't know if anybody else has gone through these short environmental forms before, but it's no or small impact, or moderate to large impact is a yes. So it's not like we're saying no, they're not going to have any impact, but it's going to be a small impact. You know, you could answer these questions any way you want to. There's no doubt about that. But to the best of our knowledge, you know, it's going to have small impact on it. And that's why we, you know, say no to it.
And also remember, it's the road use agreement that you're looking at, not their use of the road. So without the road use agreement, would the intensity of the road be higher?
Right.
Probably. Would they use more roads if they could go wherever they wanted to? Probably. This limits them to those roads. So
Right.
the second question was, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the land? No or small impact, or moderate to large?
No, small impact.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? People using the roads?
No, it's
Remember, it's the road
Right.
use agreement.
road use agreement. It's not who's doing the job. Right. So that'd be a no also.
So you know. Remember, if you
Mhm.
don't sign the road use agreement, they're still
No.
building this, and they're going to use whatever roads. So is limiting their use to certain roads, getting the money, getting the bonding, getting the indemnification. That's what you're looking at. Would the proposed action have an impact on an environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area, which is a CEA? I don't think you have one of those in Franklin, do you? You would know it, no. So that answer is no, because you don't have a CEA. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? And again, it's the road use agreement.
Right.
So is the road use, is signing this, keeping them to certain roads, is that going to negatively, or, I'm sorry, do a moderate to large impact, or a small or minor? None or smaller, or none, no or small
Right.
impact?
No or small.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy as it fails to incorporate reasonable energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No. Will the proposed action impact existing private or public-private water supplies? The road use agreement.
No.
public-private wastewater treatment utilities.
We don't have it, nope.
And I apologize, some of these just aren't applicable to any action. Some of them are, in fact, all of them. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
So basically, that was your environmental review. This is the short form. There are long forms if certain things hit a certain magnitude. And Jeff, you're going to sign if everyone agrees when you're done. It sounds to me like everything was no's.
Right.
So it is actually check this box if you've determined based on the information and supporting documentation the proposed action will not result in significant environmental impact. I'll check that box, and before I leave I'll walk over. There's two places you're going to sign. You're going to sign on page 2 of 2, and then you're going to sign on page 3 of 3. Okay? So the second document that the board has is a very short resolution. I'm going to read it, it's so short. Whereas Constitution Pipeline Company, LLC, Constitution, anticipates using concentrated traffic and has proposed a road use agreement with the town to mitigate damage to town roads over which Constitution will travel for the construction of certain pipeline currently under review by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And whereas the town declares itself lead agency and reviewed the action, which again is the road use agreement, under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and you just went through this and you found it to be an unlisted action, which basically means that you had to do a review, but it doesn't rise to the level of a long form, and finds the action does not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. That is the no to minor impacts that they just went through. Whereas the town believes such road use agreement will result in mitigation of damage to the roads, now therefore be it resolved that the town board authorizes the supervisor to execute the attached road use agreement subject to final review of the schedule of roads by legal counsel, which is me, and I will make sure that the Rod and Gun Club road is included in there with Mark's assistance. And then the last paragraph is resolve that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So this handles the seeker, declares a negative deck after what your review that was just done, and authorizes Jeff to sign this. I know this is a lot. Does anybody have any questions?
As you said, it's not perfect, but it's, you know, it was negotiated.
It was
You know,
negotiated, and I didn't make friends.
I think they've, you know, you've done a good job for us, Cheryl. There's always room for improvement, but if they're, I mean, you know, I mean, it's.
Next time
you know,
I'll shoot for 100%.
Well, I mean, you did a really good job, and this is what, as I said, the county, we're waiting on them to see what they came up with, and basically they got the same thing. You know, and I think, you know, in Davenport, you know, back, they signed about a year ago, and they signed for $30,000 and $250,000 in insurances or bonding, and thought they did well. And everybody else signed. Well, this is going to make them about $70,000 or $80,000 more, because they got 15 miles of road. Multiply that times 7,500, and what do you get? Instead of 30,000. So the town of Franklin and the town of Sanford and Bainbridge and Otsego have really helped townships along the pipeline, I feel, you know. And so I think it's not a bad road use agreement. There's always room for improvement to any agreement. You know, when you're you know, it's just, you know, you get what you can get and take
You
what you
get what the market will bear.
Right, and that's, you know, and I still fall back on what the real fact of this whole thing is FERC They said this pipeline, quote unquote, I guess they haven't approved it totally, but said this pipeline could go through. They are the ones that should say that the gas company, the pipe company, whoever you want to call it, Constitution, should take on all expenses that are incurred. We should not have to fight for it. It should be FERC's responsibility to enforce it, not us. Bargain in good faith. What is that? That leaves a big opening. And that's why you can't get everything you want. Because they did bargain. Whether it was in good faith or not, who knows? But that's where FERC should have put the hammer down and said, you know, this is not gonna cost taxpayers a bit of money. You're a business, you're doing it as a business, and it should not come a burden to the taxpayers. And that FERC is the one that's, you know, I guess we don't want government control, but damn it, if they want to give it to us, they ought to, unfunded mandate, that's what this is. Yes, Don?
So when Country Club Road gets added, but do you have mileage on that, you don't know
The
yet?
gun club road.
Gun Club Road.
Yep.
Rod and Gun Club, I'm
Yep,
sorry,
right.
I know what I meant.
Yep, yeah, we know where
You know what I meant.
Yep,
So when that gets added, this document gets a subsidy, so instead of the 54,000 or whatever it was, it goes up by the additional?
additional
Yeah, yeah.
3/4 of a mile, whatever the
Whatever it
mileage
was.
is on it.
Okay.
And the language in the resolution gives Jeff the authority to do it, but it allows me by
To
that
add
section to amend it. And I'm gonna amend it in two places. I'm gonna amend it in
Right.
the exhibit, I'm
Good.
gonna amend it in the body, so the dollar figure accurately reflects the total mileage.
Last question would
Yes.
be, just asking,
Yep.
was there any legal requirement that this be publicized for open comment in case some people had comments, or I don't know?
It
if
doesn't
it's-
require public.
Good, okay, I just wondered, I didn't want you guys to
Right.
get in trouble, not me.
Well,
Actually,
you know,
I'll be honest with you, I'm very impressed. Most of the places that I go to don't allow the interaction, at all.
You didn't hear that.
Hey, well, no, I hear that. There's too much of this closed stuff.
The,
I mean, I want input, that's all, I mean,
open meetings law is you have the ability to watch them do business, not ask questions, and they don't have to answer. Public hearing is an exception,
Right.
but they actually give you, and I'm not saying that because they hired me, I'm just telling you that I was impressed.
that's, okay. Well, do we have a,
I make a motion to adopt the road use agreement.
okay,
I second it.
we have Donnie seconded it. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So essentially, it's effective immediately or as soon as all parties have signed.
Yes,
Wonderful.
the resolution takes effect immediately, but we do need the contract to be signed. And I don't want it to be effective right now because I want the Rod and Gun Club road, so.
Added in.
Do I have the board's permission to leave so I get off the clock?
Yes.
Yes.
We thank you very much.
Thank you, it was a pleasure,
And I-
everyone,
I
thank you
have
so
talked-
much.
I have talked to Cheryl about representatives, if we need help, her to be on my caller ID.
Stay with the same bulldog.
Here, there we go. Here. And then here, and then it goes to her for the final. Okay? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thanks, Cheryl.
By the way, your questions were excellent.
So this, I gotta do another one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
You welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Have a safe trip back.
I will, I'll stay away from the deer.
Yeah, right. Deer in the ditches.
Exactly.
Okay.